You know, when you think about building a house, you always have to start with the foundation.
Right, the concrete.
Exactly. You pour the concrete, and you just expect it to be completely solid, unmoving. It's like it just sits there, permanently anchoring the entire structure to the ground.
Well, yeah, and I mean, that permanence is the whole point, right? Like, if your foundation is moving or shifting around, you have a very serious structural problem on your hands.
It's comforting, honestly. It provides this really reliable baseline for your reality. But then, once that house is built and you step outside your front door, you're immediately hit with the weather.
Oh, absolutely. The weather is a whole different beast.
It is. The weather is swirling all around that solid house. Like the wind might be blowing right now. Maybe it's
Right.
raining or maybe the clouds are just suddenly parting. The weather is incredibly active. It's immediate. And above all, it's temporary.
Yeah, that is like the absolute definition of a fleeting state. I mean, the weather today tells you absolutely nothing about the weather tomorrow, even though the house remains exactly the same.
And so if you're one of the millions of people out there trying to master the English language, or even if you just want to understand the hidden architecture of how we communicate every single day, you've actually just visualized the two foundational pillars of the present tense.
It's a great metaphor.
Right. So our mission today for this deep dive is to completely untangle those pillars. Specifically, we're looking at the present simple and the present continuous.
Two very distinct things.
Very distinct. And we're pulling all our insights today from this remarkably comprehensive masterclass from Engvid's English Training Series. It's led by an instructor named Rebecca. And early on in the material, she lays down a principle that perfectly mirrors our house metaphor. She says, if your structure is weak, your English will be weak. But if your structure is strong, your English will be strong.
Which, brings us to why this specific structural difference matters so deeply, especially for anyone coming to English from another language.
Yeah, because it's not like this everywhere.
No, not at all. In a vast number of languages around the world, speakers they don't differentiate between these two types of present tense. Like the grammatical structure you use to say, I work every day, is completely identical to the structure you use to say, I am working right now.
Oh, wow. So it's the exact same phrase.
The exact same phrase.
Okay.
And the listener just has to figure out the difference based entirely on context clues in the conversation.
But English doesn't let you do that. English is like, nope, you have to make a choice before you even open your mouth.
It's very demanding. It demands that you categorize your reality right then and there. You have to actively choose between completely different grammatical formulas to separate those, permanent foundational realities from the temporary weather-like moments.
Yes. Well, let's start by pouring that concrete foundation then. The anchor of reality, the present simple. Because to understand how things are changing, we first need to know how to talk about the things that stay the same.
Right, so the present simple functions as our baseline. We use it to describe things that are permanent, things that are habitual, and things that are factual. It is essentially the tense of general truths.
Yeah, and going back to the master class, the examples they give really clarify what permanent actually means in this context. Like if you're talking about your living situation, you say, I live in New York.
Mm-hmm.
Or for your career, you'd say, he works at a bank.
Mm-hmm.
You aren't implying that you're just, staying in New York for a long weekend. You're stating a permanent reality about your current life.
Exactly. And that same logic applies perfectly to our habits and our routines. When you describe an action you do regularly, you lean right on this foundational tense.
So like waking up in the morning.
Yeah, exactly. Saying, I wake up at 6.0 is a true statement about your general life structure. It doesn't matter if you're actively waking up at this exact second. I mean, you're probably drinking coffee in the middle of the afternoon when you actually say that sentence to someone.
You're just describing the architecture of your day.
Exactly. And the same goes for absolute facts, like the sun sets in the west. That is an unmoving scientific reality.
I also found it super fascinating that the source groups schedules into this category. Because when you really think about it, a schedule is essentially just a man-made fact.
That is a wonderful way to frame it, actually. A man-made fact. Like, our class starts at 9:00. That is an unbending rule that is governing your Tuesday morning.
Right.
And because this tense deals so much with habits and routines, this is exactly where we pair the grammar with adverbs of frequency.
Words like always or sometimes.
Right. Always, sometimes, rarely, never. You pair those specific adverbs with the present simple because they are measuring the frequency of a permanent habit. So, she always takes the bus is a statement about a recurring foundation.
So, okay, that all feels very logical. unmoving and generally true.
Hmm.
But I know English, and English is notoriously tricky.
It sure is.
It just cannot possibly be as simple as taking the subject, taking the verb, and saying, I work, you work, we work.
Right.
There's always a trap.
You are very wise to be suspicious there. There is a pretty significant catch, and honestly, it's notoriously one of the first major hurdles that trips up learners. It's the third-person singular rule,
Ah, the he, she, it quirk.
the infamous he, she, it quirk. So for the majority of subjects, I, you, we, the verb just sits there perfectly comfortably in its base form. I work, you work. But the instant you shift your focus to a third-person singular subject, meaning he, she, or it, you are forced to modify the verb.
You have to change the actual word.
Yeah, you typically have to add an S or an E's to the end of it.
Making I work become he works.
Yes, but the spelling rules dictate exactly how you add that sound, and it's highly particular. The masterclass breaks this down beautifully. For most verbs, it's easy. You simply slap an S on the end. Dance becomes dances, sleep becomes sleeps.
Okay, that makes sense.
But if the verb ends with a specific type of sound, like an S, shit, or X, you have to add is.
Right, and I was actually practicing this out loud while reading the source, and the why behind that rule becomes incredibly obvious when you try to break it.
It really does.
It's just a phonetic necessity. Like, take the verb catch. If you try to just add a standard "es" to catch, you get catch-s, catches.
Right, it's impossible to say.
You end up sounding like a deflating tire.
Yeah.
Your mouth physically cannot make those two sounds back-to-back clearly.
Yeah, your vocal cords literally need a buffer. He provides this crucial phonetic bridge. So catch naturally becomes catches, fix becomes fixes.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
Right.
And then we have verbs ending in a consonant followed by a Y, like the word study. The rule here is to drop the Y entirely and add as, so study transforms into studies.
Right. And of course, because no English rule is complete without a little bit of chaos, we have the irregular verbs that just refuse to follow the pattern entirely.
Oh.
Right. Go doesn't just get an S, it becomes goes, spelled with an E's. Do becomes does. And have undergoes a complete structural change to become has. He has, she has, it has.
Okay, so we've poured the concrete, the house is built, and our unmoving facts are established. Now let's open the front door and step outside into the weather. We are shifting into the right now reality.
The present continuous.
Yes, the present continuous. This is where the language gets active, it gets immediate and temporary.
And the transition here is sharp because the grammatical structure is entirely different from the simple tense. You can no longer just rely on the main verb alone. You have to use a specific multi-part formula.
And the formula from the text is subject plus the verb to be, so that's am, are or is, plus the main verb with an ing attached to the end. I am working, you are listening.
Exactly. This is the tense of motion. Its defining function is to describe actions that are happening right now at this exact literal second in time, like the baby is sleeping. That sentence essentially functions as a do not disturb sign for the present moment.
But it's not just the literal second you're speaking, right? Because the source also highlights actions happening around now.
Yes, that's a crucial distinction.
Because the example they give is, he is writing a book. Now, that person might be sitting at a cafe having lunch at this exact second. He's not actively typing on his laptop, but he is deeply involved in the ongoing temporary process of writing that book.
Right, and the key word in everything you just said there is temporary. Think back to the foundation we talked about earlier. We established that I live in New York is your permanent reality. But what if you just take a trip? You use the continuous tense.
So you'd say, we are staying at a hotel.
Exactly. The hotel is not your permanent foundation. It is just the current weather happening around you. It's an action that will eventually end.
Getting to see these two tenses put side by side in the masterclass was honestly a massive aha moment for me. The direct contrasts really illuminate how much power this structural choice actually has. Let's run through a few of these scenarios.
Oh, the contrasts are where the mechanics of the language really shine. Let's do it.
Okay, take a routine versus a right now moment.
Yeah.
If you're chatting with a coworker and say, we watched the news at 9:00, you're just sharing a fun fact about your evening habit.
Right. It's just a general statement.
But imagine you're sitting on the couch, the TV is on, the phone rings, and you answer it and say, we are watching the news. You are essentially telling the person on the other end of the line to make it quick because they are actively interrupting an ongoing process.
Exactly. You've completely shifted the listener's perspective. Consider the contrast between a fact and a present moment.
Right.
We know the scientific truth. The sun sets in the west. That's your foundation. But if you turn and tell a friend the sun is setting, you are commanding their immediate attention.
You're saying, look right now.
Yes, you're saying, look out the window right now. Look at those brilliant orange colors. Catch this temporary state before it's gone.
Oh, the text had another great one regarding a general reality versus a developing trend. Prices rise every year. That's just, well, the grim reality of inflation. It's a baseline fact.
Sadly, yes.
Right. But if you say prices are rising this year, you're pointing to a specific active trend that is currently unfolding all around us.
Notice how the meaning fundamentally changes simply by swapping the formula. You zoom in from a bird's eye view of general reality straight down to the street level of what is happening this very second.
And speaking of being at street level, there is this slightly advanced, highly emotional nuance the source points out for the present continuous. You can actually use it to complain.
Oh, this is one of my favorite things. It's one of the most fascinating psychological quirks in English grammar. So earlier, we securely placed words like always in the permanent present simple category. She always takes the bus. It's just a statement of frequency.
But the masterclass points out that if you take that permanent word always and forcefully jam it into the present continuous formula, it magically transforms into a complaint. Like, they are always making noise, or you're always leaving your shoes in the hallway.
It completely changes the tone, doesn't it? By breaking the standard rule, you are taking a permanent habit and framing it as this inescapable, ongoing weather event that is actively pouring rain on you right now. It injects this heavy layer of emotional exasperation directly into the grammar itself.
I just love how flexible that is. So, okay, we have the rules of the present sorted out, the concrete foundation and the swirling weather. But what happens when those rules clash head-on, or when human perception gets involved? Because that brings us to what the text calls the state of roadblocks.
Yes, this is a major collision point for a lot of learners. There is an ironclad rule in English. You absolutely cannot use state of verbs in the continuous tense.
So let's break down exactly what a state of verb is, because it's completely different from an action verb.
Right. A state of verb describes a state of being, a mental condition, an emotional state, or possession. Think about action verbs: run, jump, cook. Those describe physical, dynamic activities. A state of verb doesn't describe an activity at all. It describes a reality that simply is.
Like words like understand or like need, own.
Exactly those types of words. And the grammatical rule is that these state of verbs belong exclusively in the present simple foundation. You are not allowed to attach an ing to them.
It's funny because when you try to apply the ing rule to these verbs, your ear immediately catches it as sounding deeply unnatural. Like you would never look at a glass and say, I am needing some water.
No, never.
You just say, I need some water.
Yeah.
You don't tell your friend, we are liking this show. You say, we like this show. And you definitely don't say, I am understanding English. You simply say, I understand English.
The underlying logic here is what's truly interesting to me. Like, why does I am understanding sound so fundamentally wrong to a native speaker?
Well, while I was reading the source, I actually came up with an analogy for this that really helped it click for me.
Oh, I'd love to hear it.
So think of state of verbs like photographs. A photograph captures a fixed, unmoving state of being. You either understand the concept or you don't. You either own a car or you don't. It's binary. It's a snapshot.
Okay, I like this.
But action verbs, on the other hand, are like movies. They take time. They have a beginning, a middle, and an end. You can pause a movie while someone is in the middle of running or eating. The continuous tense that ing, it only works for movies. You can't press play on a photograph.
That is a phenomenal conceptual model. That really is.
Yeah.
Because you cannot be in the active physical process of owning something. Possession is not an activity that unfolds over time. It is a static reality. It's a photograph.
Exactly.
Therefore, it has to remain anchored in the present simple foundation.
Okay, here is another mind-bending contradiction from the source text. We have spent this entire deep dive establishing that these two tenses are used to talk about the present moment, right? But English actually allows you to use these present tenses to essentially time travel. We can use them to talk about the future.
Oh, yes. This is an incredibly common feature of conversational English, and it really goes back to how strong these structural foundations are. Let's look at the present simple, again, the tense we use for schedules. You can confidently say, the flight leaves at 7 p.m. tomorrow.
Even though it hasn't happened yet.
Right. The verb leaves is fully in the present tense, but the word tomorrow firmly places the event in the future.
It's almost like the schedule itself is so permanent and unbending that it overrides the natural laws of time.
The schedule is a fact right now, regardless of when the physical event actually occurs. And you can perform a very similar linguistic trick with the present continuous. You can say, she is flying to Mexico next week.
Normally, she is flying creates a movie in your mind of a woman sitting on an airplane at this exact second. But just by adding the phrase next week, that movie magically fast forwards and transforms into a future plan.
The caveat there, however, is incredibly strict. You absolutely must include that future time marker next week, tomorrow, next year.
Because if you drop it,
If you drop the time marker and just say she is flying in Mexico, everyone listening will assume she is at 30,000 feet right this second.
yeah, that makes total sense. Now, knowing the theory of these structures is great, but grammar is ultimately about practice. How do we apply this in the real world without just tripping over our own words? The master class spends a good amount of time navigating the actual pitfalls of conversation.
And there are quite a few. The single most common mistake learners make when trying to use the present continuous is what the source aptly names the to-be trap.
That refers to dropping the helper verb entirely, right?
Yes. Remember the formula we talked about?
Right.
Subject plus the verb to be plus the ing main verb. But when conversation speeds up, people often drop that middle piece entirely. They will say things like, my brother watching the news, or they will ask a question like, she going?
I can totally see why it happens, though. The ing part of the word is where all the action is, so it just gets all the speaker's attention. But leaving out the am is, or are, it's like leaving the engine out of a car. Like, it looks fine on the outside, but it's not going anywhere.
That is a great way to put it. That helper verb is the anchor to reality. You must say, my brother is watching the news, or ask, is she going? And interestingly, this habit of dropping the helper verb happens in the present simple foundation as well, particularly when people ask questions.
Oh, yeah, the text provided a great example of this. Someone might ask, what time you finish?
Right.
You understand what they mean, obviously, but grammatically, it's missing its core. It needs to be, what time do you finish? You need that do or does to make the question structurally sound.
Another area where conversational speed causes a lot of confusion is with short answers. In natural English flow, if someone asks you a direct yes or no question, we almost never repeat the entire sentence back to them.
Oh, definitely not. It would sound incredibly clunky. If someone asks, do they need help? You wouldn't robotically reply, yes, they need help. You take a conversational shortcut.
Exactly. You take the helping verb straight from their question and repurpose it for your answer. Do they need help? Yes, they do. Or no, they don't. Does he speak French? Yes, he does. No, he doesn't.
But within those shortcuts, the text highlights this highly specific, almost peculiar rule that completely blew my mind. I started calling it the yes rule.
Ah, the strict ban on positive short contractions.
It's so strange, but it's completely true. You absolutely cannot use contractions for positive short answers. Think about the rhythm of it. If I ask you, are you studying? You can comfortably answer, no, I'm not. That negative contraction flows perfectly. But you are forbidden from saying, yes, I'm 8.
From an acoustic standpoint, it just hangs there in the air. It sounds completely unfinished, as if you got cut off mid-sentence.
It sounds like my internet connection just dropped.
Yeah.
Like imagine asking, is he working? And getting them to play, yes, he's? No. You must commit to the full, uncontracted phrase, yes, he is, yes, I am. It is such a tiny, specific quirk of the language, but it's one of those things that instantly flags your grammar as incorrect if you get it wrong.
Speaking of things that instantly flag your grammar, the masterclass ends with a very clear, stern warning about a specific piece of vocabulary. The word ain't.
As in the classic, he ain't studying.
Exactly. Ain't is incredibly pervasive in pop culture, in movies, and in music. It basically functions as a sort of linguistic chameleon that can easily replace is not, are not, or am not in casual speech.
It's catchy, it sounds relaxed and, cool.
It does have a certain cultural rhythm to it, for sure, but the source is adamant. While it is common in casual settings, it is entirely inappropriate for formal, business, or academic English.
So don't use it in an email to your boss.
Please don't. If you drop an ain't into a university essay or use it during a formal client presentation, it will immediately undermine your professional structure. In those high-stakes environments, you really have to stick to the solid foundation. Use he isn't or he is not.
You really have to know the rules before you can break them. So we've poured the permanent concrete, we've braved the temporary weather, and we've navigated the state of roadblocks. Ultimately, these two tenses are just structural tools in your communication toolkit. The present simple is your permanent anchor. It's the house you live in. It describes your habits, your unbending facts, and your daily routines.
While the present continuous provides your active, temporary momentum, it is the rain falling outside, the trend actively developing in the market, the action happening right this very second. Mastering both means you aren't just reciting vocabulary, you are actively switching between perspectives to accurately reflect the exact, nuanced reality you were experiencing in that moment.
Honestly, sitting here thinking about it, it feels a bit exhausting. Like having
Yeah.
to constantly categorize time so precisely, split second by split second, just to form a correct sentence.
Well, that exhaustion actually points to something much deeper, and it's a really fascinating thought to take away from all this structural theory. When you think about how deeply this grammar shapes our perception of the world, it's quite profound.
How so?
Well, every single time you speak English, the language forces you to constantly categorize everything you do. You have to decide instantly, is this action I'm taking a permanent truth about who I am, or is it just a temporary state that will soon pass?
Oh, wow. So the grammar is actually forcing a psychological choice on you. Are you just working at a job temporarily, or do you permanently work there? Is your current situation just a passing weather event, or has it actually become your foundation?
Precisely. The language requires you to define your reality. So the next time you go to describe yourself to someone, the next time you are weighing the choice between saying, I am doing versus I do, take a moment to ask yourself, how permanent do you really want that action to be?
That is a wild thought to leave on. The grammatical structures you choose might actually be telling on you, revealing how you view your own life. Well, thank you for taking this deep dive with us. Go out there, check your foundation, watch the weather, and we'll catch you next time.